I've been sweating it, really sweating it. But just before the program tonight, half hour, an hour before, I began, pacing back and forth, sweat breaking out on my forehead, sweat breaking out all over me. But just before it began, I just played some music that I love. I'm a music nut, as most of you know. And a strange kind of calm descended on me. And so now I'm calm. Now I've got something I've got to do. Tonight we're going to have Michio Kaku, Professor Kaku, on. He is probably America's premier theoretical physicist. And it's really, really, really interesting stuff. I'm sure a lot of you have seen Michio on TV, various science shows. In fact, actually, he's all over TV. We're going to talk to him about that. But there's something I've got to do at the beginning of the show. And I promised my listeners I would do this. So some of you here on Sirius XM may not digest this very well, but it won't be long, and then we'll begin the regular show. Yeah, here I am back. And, of course, the question is, everybody who's wanted to interview me is, why are you back? Why? And so I'm here tonight to answer that. But to answer it, I need to relate a little bit of history. Something I've never talked about, something I've wanted to talk about for years now. So a little history. I've been called a serial retiree, and some of it is a, fair rap. There were short periods where I left broadcasting because of the events that occurred to my family and in my life. My son was attacked. There were false allegations that were made about me. Then I had to take legal action over it. My wife of 16 years, dear Ramona, died unexpectedly. These sorts of things that come along in life, they're big things too, would stop most people, I think, in their tracks, and they stopped me. In each case, though, I did return to broadcasting as soon as I could. In some cases, like the my son and so forth and so on, it was a matter of days before I got back. There was one long period of time when I was gone, and this is the one that I have never talked about, and I'm going to tonight. That was 9 months to a year, somewhere in there, that I was gone. And that fairly is a retirement. The reason for it is the reason for my falling out with Premier Radio and Clear Channel. For years now, I've held something inside of me that to move forward, I'm going to have to get out. It comes. I've got a lot of anger, institutional hatred, actually, for Premier Radio, that, if anything, has grown in recent weeks and days. So tonight, I guess I want to tell you why and clear the air, and then I'll be done with it. Back in 98, my son was sexually assaulted by his high school teacher, who was HIV positive. That man is now serving a prison sentence for that attack, and my son, to this day, suffers deep scars which have never healed and never may. Thank God, of course, he's not HIV positive or has AIDS or anything like that. Anyway, while trying to deal with all of that, a couple of radio hosts went on international radio and said there was a secret sealed indictment here in Pahrump, Nevada, charging me, Art Bell, with child molestation. My God. A more horrible thing I can't imagine. It's right on up there with murder, maybe worse. Right? I think murderers are treated better in prison, so it's really an awful allegation. Then others began repeating it, and worse. To be very, very clear, and I want to be, there was an indictment. Not aiming me. Oh, no. But, of course, the teacher who had attacked my son. Well, I immediately contacted Premier Radio and requested their legal help in defending my reputation as well as that of the companies, right? It's their reputation that's on the line, too. Don't you think? Anyway. At the time, my show was clearing, I think, more affiliates than Rush Limbaugh's. not more, I'm sorry, more than anybody save Rush Limbaugh. So I assumed that the company would leap to our collective defense. I mean, that's a horrible allegation, right? Boy, was I wrong. I had gone to the top management for help. I received a memo shortly thereafter, which I'm sure they didn't intend for me to get, but I got it, and I've still got it. It was from a manager at Premier to another manager, actually vice president, that said in part, get this, it was a worthless lawsuit, and besides, Premier had not been defamed. I went nuts. To me, then and now, it's totally beyond incredible that any company could not act to protect one of their big assets, their host, and their own reputation. How could it be? How could it be? I just seethed about it inside for years and until now, that they could let me, sort of slowly twist in the wind like that. Some of it's really hard to put into words. It affected me so heavily. Of course, I pursued the legal case myself, my own cost. And then, in 2000, not quite yet through the legal case, I said to them, bye. I'm just not dealing with this, bye. And that's why I left. Well, finally, after a long absence, the show, I guess, was in some distress. It had lost affiliates. And so the president of Premier Radio at that time, as well as the CEO of Clear Channel, the big guy himself, both came a-calling. They sat on my couch. And they said, we want you back. Name your price. Now, bear in mind, these are two guys who could have, stepped in and said, forget this memo, forget this lawyer. We're going to back this guy up and ourselves at the same time. They could have, but they didn't. So I think I may have initially suggested that they do some sort of procreation calisthenics with each other or something. I said, look, name your price. I said, you don't have enough money. I said things that can't be repeated here. And, actually on Sirius XM they could, but we're not doing that on this show, by the way. We'll get to that here in a minute. So they sat there and said, well, look, we screwed up big time. We're prepared to pay your legal costs. And then I said more things that shouldn't be repeated that amounted to hell no, no way. Finally, though, after some days of reflection, I relented for a good reason. I had a contract with them, and I had a non-compete, which means I couldn't go back on the air, and I wanted to get back on the air. That's what I do all this for, is to have fun, to be on the air. And so with a non-compete, if I didn't go back to them, I didn't go back. So I finally came up with my price. My price was that they drop 4 minutes of commercial time every single hour. Well, they met my price. So I went back, because it was the only thing I could do. I wanted that. I wanted my show. So there you have it. Oh, and by the way, that decision, if anybody ever says to you, name your price, do it. That's what I would say, because in retrospect, my price, though it was good for the show, genuinely good for the show, they put those commercials back when I was gone. When I left, they put the commercials back plus. So I should have named my price, and it should have been a high one. But there you have it. The story of my big retirement, and I think Premier's monumental lack of support. So, I needed to get all of that off my chest and out of my gut. That's it. There's lots of good reasons, though, that I am back. I love radio. I mean, I really love it. I've been in radio all my life. Began with ham radio, went to rock and roll radio, spent a lot of years there. Talk radio. You name it, radio. That's all I've ever done, so that's all I know, and that's why I'm here. Now, I've got a very wonderful wife right now. By the way, not 13 years of age, as the Internet seems to suggest, but 29, be 30 March 1st, who's very, very supportive. That's Erin, my wife now of 7 years. We've got a wonderful 6-year-old, proud to be in the first grade, daughter named Asia. So, Erin and Asia now get up early at about 6 in the morning for school every day. Well, I'm a nocturnal being, and I've been one all my life. I can't do that. So here I am with a stable, happy family. I get a message on Facebook from a guy named Jeremy Coleman. And that was pretty cool because he had to pay $5 because I've got 5,000 members in Facebook, so he had to pay $5. And I called him and he said, why don't you come to, and I've had terrestrial offers all over the place. A couple of really big ones, turned them down. But here is Jeremy saying, come to Sirius XM and just have fun. Do, like 3 hours, 4 days a week, and just do what you want. Have fun. That was it. I'm like an old radio pirate. That was too much for me. So I rounded up some old buddies. Keith Rowland did ArtBell.com way back when. Keith Rowland's doing ArtBell.com now. In fact, if you don't believe it, go over there and take a look. ArtBell.com. You've got a good reason to go over there because we've got something called the Wormhole. No, not Fast Blast. That was yesterday. Today, with a name like Dark Matter, the way you can send a message to me is pretty cool. You can do it by going to artbell.com, look for the Wormhole, and then if you have a question from me, a comment for me, or my guest, the Wormhole will digest it in Arizona. Where the website is, it will come whizzing all the way over here to Nevada and appear magically on my screen. And you don't have to be any special kind of anything to use the Wormhole. You can all use it. So how many of you guessed what my bumper music theme would be? Everybody was trying. Ride My Seesaw was such an obvious choice. Want to take a ride, right? And a ride is what it's going to be. This is going to be an awful lot of fun. Anyway, here I am on Sirius XM. There's no rules, folks. Oh, well, there's one. No bad language. Now, I know to the Sirius XM crowd, that may seem, like anti-Fourth Amendment or something, I don't know. But we don't need bad language here to do what we do. And besides, we serve up an audience that's somewhere between, 12 and 80, maybe more. So there's no point in antagonizing them with bad language, and there's no need, because you can convey information, surprise, shock, whatever, without resorting to bad language. We never did, and I wouldn't want it now. So no bad language. Restrain thyself. Now, I did, and oh, by the way, when we do open lines, they are going to be unscreened open lines. Right? Unscreened. That means you just let it ring, and I'll pick it up. Now, don't call right now because I'm not ready for calls. But when we do open lines, they're going to be unscreened. We have a guest? Yes, we'll screen just to the degree that we'll make sure you have a relevant question for the guest. But otherwise, Otherwise, we'll not screen. Let's see, anything. Oh, politics. I said we wouldn't talk about politics, but, it'll sneak in a little bit. There's no way to avoid it. If you talk about global warming or cooling is the latest news, it's going to get a little political. I mean, some topics just can't avoid it. That's all there is to it. So there'll be a little bit of that, but I have interests that lie in other areas. science, the paranormal, our very existence, stuff like that. So, we're about to get underway. I think it seems to me there's something else I wanted to tell you, and it's skipping my mind right now. So that's kind of it. A little bit of politics only when it relates. Oh, I know what it was. Last night, I was sitting in this studio listening to whoever was on around like midnight or 1 a.m., and it was hilarious. Because it was one talk host talking to another. And he was saying, are you going to listen tomorrow night? This guy talks about aliens. Are you going to listen to that? Of course, we talk about much more than aliens, but they come up. And they were joking about it and having a good old time at my expense. And so I sat and listened. It kind of piqued my interest, so I sat and listened a little bit. And I guess I listened for an hour because they started taking calls. They tried to go off to some other topic, but they began taking calls on whatever show this was, and every single call was about aliens. Totally cracked me up. I mean, here they were having a few jokes at my expense. Hey, he's coming on tomorrow night. He's going to talk about aliens. Why don't they just float down? I heard. And then they began going to the phones, and every single call was about aliens. And I think I may have heard a crack toward the end of it. Well, maybe we ought to be talking about aliens. He holds the Henry Summit professorship in theoretical physics at the City College and the Graduate Center of the City University of New York. It's quite a sentence. He has lectured around the world, and his PhD-level textbooks are actually required reading at many of the top physics labs. Dr. Kaku graduated from Harvard in 1968, summa cum laude, number 1 in his physics class. No surprise, huh? Received his PhD from the University of California at Berkeley Radiation Lab in 1972. There's a place for you. Bet there are stories. He held a lectureship at Princeton University in 1973, joined the faculty at the City University of New York, where he has been a professor of theoretical physics now for 25 years. His goal is to help complete Einstein's dream of a theory of everything, a single equation, he likes to say no bigger perhaps than your thumb, which would unify all the fundamental forces in the universe. My God. Dr. Kaku, welcome.
Welcome. Well, I'm glad to be on your show, Art. It's been a while, huh?
It's great to hear that voice. It's been a very long while, yes, sir. And it's been so many years, Professor, that do you remember I said you're going to be the next Carl Sagan?
Well, I remember, yes. I remember you said that.
Yeah,
and it wasn't so long ago.
Well, you are. You've achieved that. I can't turn on Discovery or any other science program and not see you.
Well, thank you.
Some of the songs that you played I Ran by Flock of Seagulls.
Yeah, we did, which was really good. You guys started off with that, I think, right?
Yeah. Had the guitar out for most of the set.
Oh, yeah.
You also did We're Not Gonna Take It, which are our special guest in studio here right now.
Yeah, well, that was the fun part is everybody show up and they're like, hey, what's the song I can sit on? I was like, okay. Started penciling people in. We had guest singers on stage, guest guitar players. That was a blast.
Well, you had Renee from Leisure Hours. She did Hungry Like the Wolf and Lita Ford song, yeah. And then the Psycho Killer stuff, that was great.
Which even we had
that wasn't 80s. Yeah,
I sang on that.
I helped sing. I messed Jeff up, by the way, but I sang on that one. But I thought the way that you guys did the end of that, like as you kind of faded out, that was great.
Was it?
That was good. Did you improv that, or was that like?
Yeah, that was the whole. We were just like, all right, jam.
Yeah, that was excellent. The way you guys bled into that. But in We're Not Gonna Take It, you had a special guest guitarist.
We did.
And that's the guy sitting right next to me here, our special guest in the studio.
Oh, fuzz.
Mr. Micah Hanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been so long since I've addressed you from this location. A fortified
only since like November, really.
That's a year. That's a year. Yeah. You know, annually is a long time.
Well, actually, have you for the election special.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, but in studio, it's been almost exactly a year because it was December 20th, I think. We did the big 100th anniversary episode, or 100th episode.
That's right. Hallowed ground that we walk on here, the Conspiranormal Podcast. Did you guys ever come up with a name? You know, I've got the Bunker, and certain other podcasters have started calling their facilities the Bunkers also. I don't know where they got that idea from. We do have a
name for this. We do have a name, actually. We call it the Bighorn Studio.
Bighorn Studio. There we go. So glad to be walking tall in the Bighorn Studio. Yeah. Yep. Back in Nashville town. Hey, and this time I had to bring some friends along.
Yes,
had to get things real. So,
by all means, introduce your friends.
Let's go counterclockwise here. So, this gentleman right here is an executive producer of my podcast, The Gralien Report, and he has also been an in-studio co-host and also my confidant behind the scenes for many years. We've been known to engage in much revelry and mischief. Mr. Jeremy London, otherwise known as Mr. Nasty himself.
Mr.
Jeremy.
Nasty.
Yeah.
What's up, guys?
He is
What's up, Jeremy?
Not a native, but he's local to Nashville as of the last 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah, and he's always trying to get me to come over here and trying to get me to move here. And before long, who knows, I may have to relocate the Gralien bunker once it's all said and done.
Because a lot of digging.
Yeah, well, fortunately, there's that Cora super deep borehole. We'll get to work on the same kind of technology.
The Hadel Caves?
The Hadel Caves. Yeah, we can tap those caves. Tennessee is covered below ground with karstic cave systems, so we can repurpose some of those. So I brought him along, but often on my show I talk about, and on this show I've said I've got a lot of good friends in Tennessee, but there's another guy who I've wanted desperately to get on a show with me. I haven't even gotten him on the Gralien Report yet. More my fault than anybody else's. And we're all out today enjoying some time together. And he says, "Hey, why don't we come out there and do this podcast?" And I thought, and the plan is coming together most perfectly. Well, this gentleman right here is one of the only individuals I can say I have been with when a UFO appeared, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later tonight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's a person who's had a long interest in this kind of stuff, and I got to be honest, he has been involved with a lot of research I've done with regard to the more paranormal side of stuff back when I was really interested in that years ago. Now, as times change, we've both kind of taken a similar course, and we've gotten more interested in history. And while I've gone underground with the Gralien Report and retreated to my bunker and studied mysteries of time, space, and anomalies of science, historical mysteries, this guy's gone completely mainstream. And I hope you don't mind me saying, this fellow right here, he's the bass player traveling right now, going to military bases, concert halls, venues, stadiums, playing with Three Doors Down. The bassist of the band right here, Mr. Justin Biltonen, my good pal. So welcome right here to the Bighorn Studios.
Yeah, welcome, Justin. Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's no joke. He always gives the best stories. He's like, okay, I'm out there on the road. And Chris and Brad and I, man, we're staying in this haunted, studio, or this haunted, next to a cemetery, or we're in a building, or in a theater, and something weird always happens. And he always tells the best stories. So that's why I've always said, Justin, you got to be on podcast too. And then, of course, we've got other people here in the studio as well. Maybe not on the mic, but just a little off. Miss Chris right there, the lovely lady, along with Mr. Biltonen. And then, of course, our good friend Joe back over there, who is well known to Conspiranormal podcasters.
Yes, he is. Joe was the second guest on the show back in the day.
So now we raise our square hammer. Are you ready to swear right here, right now?
Hey, Justin, let's talk about that UFO experience.
Yeah.
What you guys experienced out there. How long ago was that?
Yeah.
Jeremy, you don't even know this story, do you?
I've never heard this story. How have I never heard this story?
I have no idea.
Okay, so
it wasn't even flying.
How long ago was this, by the way, guys?
It was probably six.
I'd say about 6 years ago.
7 years ago. Yeah. I was still living in our hometown of Asheville, North Carolina, and it was about, I think it was about 12:30 at night. Me and Micah and another friend of ours were driving around. Micah was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and our friend was behind me, and we were driving, just kind of talking. We'd been kind of cruising around Asheville.
But not drinking.
Not drinking. No drugs whatsoever. We were totally clean frame of mind, and we'd been driving up along the parkway, the Blue Ridge Parkway, and it was a totally clear night, and we'd gone far enough out of the city to where you couldn't see the town. It was just the mountains. And once you get up there, if anybody's ever been on the Blue Ridge Parkway, you can tell, like, as soon as you get past a certain point, you're in the wilderness, and the sky opens up, everything opens up. You can see the mountains, you can see the can't see any kind of light pollution from the town. And we were heading back towards town, and there's 2 little sets of ranges. I can't remember exactly what the pull-off was, but you'll see these overlooks where you can stop and take pictures. And so there's usually like a little historical plaque. It tells you the name of the ridge and the elevation and stuff. And as we're pulling past that, me and the other passengers saw it at the same time as this kind of dark red light out of the side of the mountain ridge that was shining like a slightly lighter red light down the side of the mountain. And at that point,
Yeah,
I could also saw it.
I became aware of it, but here's how I became aware of this. And I'm driving, so I naturally am not looking. Matt Hickson, who was in the back seat with us, that's the other guy that was with us, okay. Jeremy. Yeah. We're driving along on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and we get just beyond this this overlook, I guess, where you can see this thing, which was directly over the Mills River. Well, it wasn't really the Mills River Valley. It was a mountain range that there is an access road that comes up out of the Bent Creek Wilderness and goes up over this mountain and down into the Mills River area. Okay, the mountain where this road goes and turns from Bent Creek into Mills River is the mountain over which this light we saw actually was hovering or was fixed, however you want to call that. So as I get down past the location where we're able to see this thing, both of these guys are quiet, Justin and Matt, and then Justin goes, "What was that?" And then Matt goes nuts and says, "I saw that too. Oh my gosh!" So they're wanting me to turn around. So we get down, and they're I almost said caves, but there are tunnels all along the Blue Ridge Parkway. So at the next tunnel I stop, there are no other cars. Nobody else was on the road, I don't think. That I remember.
No, it was totally clear. I mean, it was like 12:30 at night. So. And
so I turn around, I do a 2-point turn, and I go back up the road. And as we're going up, this puts the point of origin for this light, whatever it was, to our left. There was vivid light, red light coming through the trees. And I was so excited at this point because I'm thinking, wow, I'm going to see something. I'm finally going to, have this experience and see something. And I'm not just saying I can see a little light. I mean, there's light streaming through the trees. And we get up beyond the tree line and nothing.
Just like shut off. Someone turned the switch off. Then it was gone.
And so I didn't see the object that Justin and Matt both saw, but I clearly saw the light. And I was so eternally frustrated because I'm one of these people, people always ask me, "Micah, you're so interested in this stuff. Have you ever seen a UFO?" And I always have to say, "No, I haven't, but I've come so close."
Yeah. That's the closest thing that I've ever seen to anything like that out of the norm.
Do you have any kind of like speculation as to what you think it might have been?
I have no idea.
Well, I'll tell you what we could add to that, though, is, I don't think that any of the three of us, Justin, Jeremy, and I, we're not people who look at this and say, "And therefore aliens." They're here visiting. Maybe they are. I don't know. But
sure,
when you see a light in the sky, the first thing I think, I'm open to possibilities, but the first thing I think is, okay, well, this could be some sort of a military technology. This could be this. Keep in mind, was years ago. Before we had a lot of commercial drones and things like that. So I don't think it would be anything like that. But our minds aren't the types that gravitate toward, "We saw an alien," or something like that. So this was an experience that was unusual and, by definition, an unidentified flying object. Make of that what you will, but it was definitely one of the weirdest things in the location where it was that we saw it. And like so many people will tell you, they'll have these weird experiences and then they don't think much about it thereafter. And I remember a couple of days afterward, we went down there hiking. Yep. We drove down onto the trail
to see what was down there.
We tried to find it, and we found the bear instead.
Yeah. Justin and Matt and I go walking up this trail near where we think we've seen everything. And then a bear, fell out of a tree?
Yeah, it was probably like a teenage bear that climbed this tree. And he goes, "Oh,
yeah." The guys are behind me, and I throw my arms up, and I'm like, "Wait!" And this bear falls on the ground, looks at us, and just takes off running. And we're like, "Okay, we've seen enough. Back to the car."
Wow!
Such intrepid adventurers.
We walked up there thinking we were gonna find this forest crop circle and burn trees
but instead you found a bear,
radiation or something, and it was a bear.
We found a bear.
Maybe the bear was doing his own investigation. Yeah. Maybe that's what it was.
He was investigating. The
flashlight.
Yeah, the flashlight bear. Yeah. That would have been the flare bear, right? Yeah, not to be confused with a there bear or a stare bear.
Or a care bear.
Or
maybe it was a baby squatch.
A baby squatch.
A baby squatch.
What would you call a squatch bear?
A squatchling.
Squatchling.
I would prefer to believe it's a baby squatch than a bear in a tree.
It was a bear.
Why not?
It's a baby squatch.
Why not?
Maybe. Oh, no, not you too, huh?
Yeah,
You think it was
Justin, we were talking a
That's how
little
it walks
bit.
out of there.
We were talking a
Revisionist
little bit.
history.
Talking a little bit at lunch about some ghost stuff ghost stories that you have and some personal experiences there.
Yeah.
You want to care to relate any of those?
Yeah, I've had a couple little random things here and there. It happened. I don't even know if I'd necessarily like really deeply attribute it to
Sure.
paranormal, but just stuff that makes you go like, I wonder what that was.
Yeah, that's weird. Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we were the one that I'm thinking of right now. We're up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and it's a very old kind of steel town. And there's a casino that's built inside of this old steel mill, and right next door there's this place that's like quintessential horror movie steel mill thing. Like as soon as you drive up to it, you're like, there's somebody in there wearing a creepy mask who is cutting people up. It's like it's out of a horror movie. And I remember we'd parked the bus, and me and our singer were up on the bus at the time. It was just the two of us up there, and we were sitting there talking. And the bus curtains for the bunks make a very distinct sound when you hear them. It's like shh when they open. It's like the only thing on the bus that makes that noise.
Yeah, kind of like the hydraulic noise. Yeah.
And like when you've been on a tour bus long enough, like you hear that noise and you know exactly what it is. And we're sitting there talking, and like we had been talking about how creepy that building was. No, that place is haunted. I know it is. And then later on, we were sitting there talking, and we heard one of those curtains go wide open. And we both just froze because we knew we were the only people on that bus. And we looked back, got up, like both of us just walked up and down the halls. We were looking, and we were like, wow, that, like something absolutely just opened one of those curtains, and it was not either of us.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's
I don't know
crazy.
what it was. Like
Yeah.
it was just some kind of weird sound. It was a strange time and place. Yeah.
Well, I like the story you were telling us earlier about your friend's house that has so they said that they hear people in the house.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Brad's old house?
Yeah. That old house. They we hear some stuff from time to time. Whenever I'd go stay out there with it, they would hear TVs coming on, and like they kind of always had various kind of weird experiences. It was an older home out in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And always kind of weird things that kind of made your hair stand on it. And like you would be in a place, or you'd be in the house by yourself and hear movement, and you can sometimes attribute it to an old house settling or something, but you know what a door opening and closing sounds like. You know what footsteps sound like. And when I was there, you'd constantly hear different things.
Would you ever hear voices like that inside the house and other people?
Me personally, at this particular house, I never
Right.
heard voices, but